Chapter 66, Washroom Events. Shupei, I notice that you keep mentioning Mo Jinrong's past today. I don't want you to cause any trouble to break up the relationship between my grandson and his wife. I won't forgive you if I find out this is true, old Mrs. Mo warned. Shupei nodded, still observing Mo Jinrong's reaction. Strange. Was Mo Jinrong really all right? He should be having angina now. Lan Anran was curious as well. Since Mo Jinrong didn't have any reaction at all, she glanced at him. Mo Jinrong's expression was calm, without any abnormality, but his heart was indeed tightening little by little. He was enduring it, but he couldn't let anyone see anything wrong at this point. Grandma, I need the washroom. Lan Anran made up an excuse. Okay, you go. Jinrong, you take her. The more old Mrs. Mo looked at her, the fonder she grew of her. Mo Jinrong nodded and brought Lan Anran to the washroom, where he collapsed. Lan Anran knew it, so she locked the bathroom door. How are you? Anran asked with concern. Mo Jinrong held his chest, his lips turning blue, and he couldn't say a word. He reached into his pocket with a trembling hand to find the medicine. Let me help you. Anran took a small bottle of pills from his pocket, which when she opened it was empty. Mo Jinrong had fainted from the pain, and Anran could only help him again. She took out a small box from her bag, which had a special compote. She dug up some and smeared it over Mo Jinrong's body to calm him down before feeding him a gray pill. Ever since Mo Jinrong fell down beside her last time, she had brought some medicine to prevent these accidents. But she didn't have any more gray pills left, and they couldn't solve the root problem. She had to find time to make some special medicine. Mo Jinrong's complexion improved after taking the medicine, but there were many people outside waiting for him and her. She couldn't let anyone find out about Mo Jinrong's condition. In a hurry, she had no choice but to use her trump card. Mo Jinrong had only fainted, and the pain would clear his head. She took out a silver needle from her bag and pierced it into one of Mo Jinrong's painful acupoints. Ah! Mo Jinrong woke up from his coma and cried out in pain. You're awake? Mo Jinrong looked at the long needle in her hand and couldn't help swallowing his saliva with a horrified expression. What were you going to do? I didn't have any choice. Everyone is waiting for you. Anran smiled and put away the silver needle. Mo Jinrong suddenly remembered that he fell because of the angina attack. How did he get better so quickly? You saved me? He asked skeptically. There's still one pill left, so I gave it to you. Anran lied guiltily. Mo Jinrong was about to ask when some family came over and asked worriedly, Jinrong, Anran, are you alright? What's wrong? Mo Jinrong's shout startled old Mrs. Mo, who was listening to the show. She was a little worried and came over to ask, We're alright. Nothing's wrong. Anran shouted towards the door, wanting to help Mo Jinrong. It's alright, I'll do it myself. As he spoke, he suddenly noticed a pleasant scent coming from his body. He hated the scent of a woman's perfume, but he didn't reject this. He stood up and patted himself before walking over to open the door. Everyone was watching him with strange looks. Jinrong, this is the female toilet. Were you a little impatient? Shupei glanced at the sign and smiled. Old Mrs. Mo would scold them for such an embarrassing matter. Young people, you can understand. Old Mrs. Mo snickered, thinking that they were doing unspeakable things in the toilet. It seemed like her great-grandson wasn't far away. Mom, don't you see? Why are you... Shupei was unconvinced and didn't dare to speak after being glared at by old Mrs. Lan. Anran hid behind and touched her neck in embarrassment. Things were getting worse. Anran, come here. Old Mrs. Mo waved, and Anran walked over. Anran, you should be more like this in the future. Do you need Grandma's help? Jinrong is a reserved child, and he might be embarrassed to say so. But don't be embarrassed. Grandma is waiting to have a great-grandson. Anran was stunned. In her past life, old Mrs. Mo wasn't such an open-minded person. Why did she seem to have changed in this life? It's alright, Grandma. Jerome and I, we... Anne wanted to say something, but old Mrs. Mo stopped her. She had lived her entire life and knew everything about young people. Stay in the villa and stay with Jerome tonight. The beds have already been prepared for you, so have a work hard tonight. Old Mrs. Mo whispered. Lad and Anne wanted to refuse, but anyone would be suspicious if they had gotten married and they were sleeping in separate beds, so she could only agree. It's alright, let's go, and continue watching the show. Grandma will take you to eat the best food in the Mo family has to offer. Chapter 67, Their First Kiss. The stage was set up for performances of old Mrs. Mo's favorite opera melodies for the occasion. Lin Anran sat beside Mo Jinrong, her eyes constantly drifting towards him. Old Mrs. Mo saw through Anran's thoughts and said with a chuckle, Jinrong, you haven't been back in a long time. Bring this newly arrived pastry for Anran to try. Mo Jinrong was stunned. He picked up a piece of glutinous cake and handed it to Anran. Here. You really didn't know how to coax a girl. You should feed her. Xu Fei laughed loudly. Anran thought that Mo Jinrong would be fine after taking the pill, so she grabbed his hand and placed the glutinous rice cake in her mouth. Grandma, this is delicious. She chewed a few times and smiled. Old Mrs. Mo was overjoyed. Mo Jinrong was surprised he wasn't ill. Since when did the medicine become so effective? Xu Pei observed for a long time and didn't find anything wrong with Mo Jinrong. If his illness acted up, he definitely wouldn't have been able to endure it until now. Was his illness really cured? The group of people watched the show quietly. When the show was over, it was almost afternoon. They left after eating. Anran, you stay here with Jinrong tonight. You are a married couple, so there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Old Mrs. Mo smiled and pulled Mo Jinrong to the side. Grandson, Grandma observed you today and you look well. That girl is not bad. Let Grandma have a great-grandson today, you rascal. Mo Jinrong didn't speak, his expression indescribable. Old Mrs. Mo turned and looked at Anran with a smile. Anran, tell Grandma if you need anything. Okay, thank you, Grandma. Anran took a breath and said. They waited till night. Anran was afraid that her parents would be anxious, but she couldn't be sure if she would be staying. She could only lie and say that she wouldn't be coming home and would stay overnight at her classmate's house. Lan Tingyang felt that his daughter had grown up and should have her own life and friends, so he didn't think too much about it before agreeing. The room was large, and Anran laid on the bed first, feeling a little nervous. In her past life, they had never been so close. Was she going to die here today? Was he going to do something to her? The more Anran thought about it, the more nervous she became. She hugged her body tightly and regretted that there weren't any cotton-padded clothes, or she would have worn several pieces. You sleep on the bed while I sleep on the floor. A deep and calm voice came from across the room. Anran raised her head and saw that Mo Jinrong had come out of the shower. He had his hair wet, a towel draped over his shoulder, and was wearing casual pajamas. He looked even more alluring than usual. Seeing that Mo Jinrong didn't seem to be interested, Anran felt relieved. Soon her evil intentions were exposed again as she smiled evilly. But Mo, why aren't you sleeping on the bed? It's alright, I'll sleep on the floor. Mo Jinrong replied expressionlessly. But Mo, why don't we... Anran spoke coquettishly to Mo Jinrong. No need. I'm just young master's substitute. Mrs. Lan, please have some self-respect. He had never been afraid of anyone in his life, but this time he was really afraid of Lan Anran. Self-respect? I don't have any. Come on. Young madam and the butler. Lan Anran pounced towards him as she spoke. Mo Jinrong turned around and Anran missed. Butler Mo, it wouldn't be good if Grandma finds out. Your acting was great today. Why don't you make it real? Anran spoke charmingly. Did he really think she was a fool? Today, Mojin was claiming to act as himself, so why was he still pretending? His acting was too fake. She then pounced over her pretentiously. Mojin hurriedly dodged her. Just as Lan Anren was about to miss, she grabbed Mojin bathrobe and yanked. Anren lost her balance and fell to the ground, followed by Mojin. The lips touched and half of Mojin clothes were torn off. Ah! Lan Anren was stunned. In her past life, Mojin had never kissed her. Even though he had wanted to treat her kindly at times, he was suppressed by her ruthlessness. This was their first kiss. Mojin was stunned for a moment before he returned to his senses. He pushed Lan Anren aside and stood up, exposing half of his body. "Put on your clothes." Lan Anren returned to her senses and turned around in embarrassment, throwing the bathrobe behind her. Mojin put on his clothes and laid on the ground without a word. Perhaps it was because of his nervousness. He seemed to have forgotten the pain in his body. Old Mrs. Mo listened excitedly from outside and covered her mouth to chuckle. "Let's go. There's hope for my great-grandson." She and the nanny hurriedly left and returned to their rooms. The room fell silent, and the two of them played up with their phones with their backs to each other. Mojin wanted to forget everything that had happened. He turned his attention to Rongzi and sent him a text. "How is it going? Q and I have reached an agreement to find Shang Tian. I'm afraid that the fishing method won't work, so Shang Tian will have to do it himself," Rongzi replied quickly. Chapter 68, Secret of the Couple. No, Shang Tian cannot be exposed. Mojin rejected the idea. You can't fool a wolf like him unless it's a perfect trap. Shang Tian can be behind the scenes, but we have to let Q know that he is around so that we can find him, Rongzi replied instantly. Mojin thought about it. Since Rongzi and Q were already in contact, why was he paying attention to Shang Tian? He would divert his attention from finding Zero. His slender fingers landed on the keyboard. "I've changed my mind. Don't focus on Shang Tian. Since you contacted Q, ask him to help me find Zero." Rongzi was silent for a moment before replying. "You don't want Q to serve you anymore?" "You don't have to look for someone who can get things done with money," Mojin replied quickly. Anren was thinking about the kiss. She touched her red lips and the corner of her mouth lifted slightly. At this moment, the person on the other side of the phone seemed to be very unromantic. "Boss, there's news about Shang Tian's company. On the surface, Shang Tian's is a medical equipment company called Yimei Corporation. They use the money from the company to make cheap medicine behind closed doors. This medicine is bought into the black market for severely ill patients, just as the old man said." Lan Anren's expression lit up. She didn't expect Shang Tian to be doing this sort of trading. "Can you find the handler?" Lan Anren asked. "It was Boss Yu a few days ago, but recently there has been a new person. I don't know the details yet," Fatty continued. "Find the handler and I'll expose Shang Tian's scheme." Anren was furious. She was a doctor who treated illnesses and saved lives. How could she tolerate such filthy behavior? "Boss, our employer hasn't asked us to do this, so we won't be given a single cent. Why should we pursue this?" Fatty was puzzled. "Life is not a joke. It is shameful to exchange one's life for money. I want to do this myself. It has nothing to do with you. You just have to help me find who's behind it." Anren's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Yes, boss," Fatty replied swiftly. Across the room, Mojin thought, "Shang Tian, I'm definitely going to catch you." Mojin was still sending messages to Rongzi. "Master Mo, you're so stubborn. Your illness hasn't even been stable recently. I heard that you were discharged from the hospital after your relapse, but you're still looking for Zero?" Rongzi was confused. "I hope to be cured completely." "Oh, right. I heard from Mo-san that your new wife is quite strange. Do you need me to find out more about her?" Rongzi asked with interest. He loved mysterious things. There's no need. Mo-san has investigated her several times. There isn't anything suspicious. I just feel that she is hiding something from me, Mo Jinran replied. The two of you are really a pair, both mysterious characters. How interesting, Rongzi teased. Mo Jinran didn't reply this time, but closed his phone and his eyes to sleep. In the Rong City Villa district, Mo Chang-wen had just returned from the company. Shu-pei came back exhausted and sat on the sofa. She closed her eyes and enjoyed Mo Chang-wen's shoulder massage. Dear, have you investigated the matter I asked you? Mo Chang-wen asked. Shu-pei nodded. I don't think Mo Jinran is sick at all. He is in good health. Was he pretending in the past? What? Really? How is that possible? He has had angina for many years, so how did he suddenly get better? Mo Chang-wen didn't understand how this could be. Of course it's true. Mo Jinran was playing with fire and his new wife in the washroom today. Fortunately, old Mrs. Mo saw it. But old Mrs. Mo likes Ayn Rand too much. She doesn't even scold her, so she must be very happy. Don't come to me for such things in the future. I can tell that old Mrs. Mo is biased. She gave Lan Ayn Rand a global black card and family heirloom so easily without batting an eyelid. I never saw a single good thing like that and was scolded by old Mrs. Lan, Shu-pei complained. Old Mrs. Mo treats Lan Ayn Rand so well? Mo Chang-wen frowned. Of course. They'll be staying together tonight. They might even be doing the deed right now. Shu-pei was a little jealous. Mo Chang-wen didn't speak and fell into deep thought. He had never heard of the famous doctor Mo Jinran was looking for before. He didn't know how he could be better all of a sudden. Was there anything strange with Mo Jinran today? Mo Chang-wen asked reluctantly. No. How many times do you want me to repeat myself? It's so annoying. Shu-pei was furious at the thought of old Mrs. Mo treating Ayn Rand so well. Honey, don't be so angry. I know that you're frustrated just by looking at Lan Ayn Rand. How about this? You send a few women over to Mo Jinran in a few days. If Mo Jinran's illness has really gotten better, once you send some beautiful women over, he definitely won't be able to take a hold of himself. When the time comes, tell Ayn Rand about it, and the two of them will definitely fall out. Once this happens, won't our son be the only eligible heir? Mo Chang-wen smiled. It wasn't convenient for him to arrange this, but it was suitable for Shu-pei. Firstly, he wouldn't quarrel with Shu-pei over a woman's problem, and sending the woman over himself would seem too deliberate. His wife was the most suitable option. Chapter 69, Trapped. Shu-pei thought about this and turned to look at him. Mo Chang-wen, you're finally enlightened. Let's do this. All men cheat. I don't believe Mo Jinran is a gentleman. Shu-pei was in a good mood, and the thought of this. It just so happened that the entertainment company under the Mo family group was hiring newbies, so it wouldn't be difficult to send over a few fair-skinned, beautiful little celebrities. That's true. I heard that Lan Ayn Rand is a jinx. Pretty soon, the two of them will jinx each other and she'll die. Mo Chang-wen tightened his grip slightly as he spoke, and Shu-pei felt extremely comfortable. It wasn't that he didn't have such an idea. If the plan didn't succeed, perhaps Lan Ayn Rand's life would really be taken out by the heavens. Mo Chang-wen, you have to be careful. The inheritance of the Mo family corporation is important, but so is your life. Shu-pei beat around the bush to remind Mo Chang-wen. Over the years, she didn't care about what Mo Chang-wen did. Even if she knew what he had done, she pretended not to know. But if it involved a life-threatening problem, she just couldn't ignore it. Got it, honey. You still care about me. Mo Chang-wen smiled and continued to massage her. His hands kept moving downwards, and Shu-pei gradually fell into his arms. Come on, honey. He carried Shu-pei, who was on the sofa, upstairs. The two of them slept until dawn. Perhaps it was because the floor was too hard, but Mo Jinran's waist hurt. The moment he woke up, he saw Lan Ayn Rand sleeping on the bed. He didn't expect the girl who looked refined to have such poor sleeping posture. Mo Jin-won glanced sideways and walked out the door. Old Mrs. Mo had prepared a sumptuous breakfast downstairs. "Grandson, how was it last night?" Old Mrs. Mo smiled. Mo Jin-won buttoned the last button on his wrist and nudged his gold-framed glasses. "Pretty good. Why didn't you wake Anran up? Her breakfast is going to get cold," Old Mrs. Mo chided. Upstairs, Lan Anran was awakened by the morning sun. She rubbed her eyes and got up in a daze to freshen up before rushing downstairs. There were many nannies waiting for Anran in a row downstairs. Anran didn't panic at all when she saw this because she had led such a life every day in her past life. However, the nannies were extremely respectful towards her and didn't dare to go overboard. The moment she sat down, Mo Jin-won stood up and said coldly, "I'm done eating, so I'm going to the office." Old Mrs. Mo wasn't surprised to see her grandson like this, but she was a little dissatisfied with his attitude towards his wife. "You child, Anran just woke up. Why don't you wait until she finished eating before leaving?" Mo Jin-won didn't say a word, but sat back down. He recalled the kiss last night and felt embarrassed. "It's all right, Grandma. Jin-won is very busy. I'll go back by myself later," Anran said sensibly. "What a sensible child, Anran. I don't know what you like to eat, but there are both Chinese and Western dishes here. Have a look and eat whatever you'd like." Old Mrs. Mo smiled. "Thank you, Grandma." Lan Anran sat in silence. After the meal, Old Mrs. Mo reluctantly reminded her to visit her frequently. Lan Anran nodded and left. "Young Master Mo, Butler Mo looks more like a young master than you." Lan Anran smiled as she sat in the car. Mo-san didn't say anything. He was a young master after all. It wasn't an act. "Miss Lan, we're going to the company. You should get down here," Mo Jin-won called out. "All right." Lan Anran looked out the window. The hospital was right in front, so she could visit her mother. She got out of the car and watched Mo Jin-won's car leave before turning to the hospital. In the car, Mo-san asked, "Young master, were you and Miss Lan all right yesterday?" He vaguely remembered what they did in the washroom yesterday. Logically speaking, young master wasn't someone who couldn't control himself, but yesterday he was shocked. "Did you want something to happen to us?" Mo Jin-won asked without raising an eyelid. "It's nothing. I just think that old Mrs. Mo likes Miss Lan a lot," Miss Mo-san said. "Focus on your work. Have you arranged the people I told you to?" Mo Jin-won asked. "Yes, someone followed Miss Lan the moment she was up. We have eyes all around them, and the Lan family won't be able to escape our clutches." Mo-san spoke confidently. "Let's go to the office," Mo Jin-won muttered. On the way, Lan Anran had a nagging feeling that something was wrong, as though there were eyes staring at her. When she turned her head, there was nothing. She hadn't felt such a strange feeling in a long time. She took out her phone in a panic and called Fatty. "Hey, Fatty, see if anyone is following me. I'm around the hospital." When Fatty received the call, he started to look around Lan Anran, noticing that there were indeed people watching her. "There are, boss, but these people don't seem to be doing much harm. They don't seem to be having bad intentions. I don't like these people staring at me. Find a way to chase them away." Anran hated stalking. She had to keep her privacy secret. "I'm afraid not. There are too many people here. If we make a big move, it'll definitely cause suspicion." Patty was stumped. "You may leave. As long as I move about normally, they will probably leave in a few days. Find a way to find out who they are serving," Lan Anran said softly into the phone before hanging up and walking to the hospital. Chapter 70. Bored Part-Time. Lee Euro had just taken a medicine and was asleep. When Yanran saw Anran, he said quietly, "Sis, where did you go play yesterday? I was worried to death, but I was also afraid of waking you and your classmates. I sat up worried the entire night." Anran looked at her sleeping mother with a sense of warmth. Why didn't she know that her mother cared about her so much in her past life? Anran, you're back. How were the people in the Mo family yesterday? Did anything happen? Lan Young asked worriedly. He heard that old Mrs. Mo had not been trifling with, and all of her 5 granddaughter-in-laws passed away without her guidance. No, she likes me a lot. It was just fine, Anran smiled. Hearing this, Lan Young was relieved. He gave them a nod and headed to the hospital for work. At the Lan family villa, old Mrs. Lan was furious because her second child, Lan Young, still hadn't recovered from her previous accident with them. Mom, don't let it affect your health, Xu Yanshan comforted her. How did Ting Young become like this? Lang Ting was a little dissatisfied. Alright, don't talk about it anymore. Mom, are we going to let Ting Young and that brat bully us like this? Our family really has no way out. Ting's mistake was made known to him, but Ting Young refuses to let it go. Where is he going to find a job at his age? Xu Yanshan muttered worriedly beside Zhao Shumi. Don't worry, no matter how unfiled Lan Young is, he is still my son. With me around, there will be food for you guys. I won't starve you. Don't worry, when I'm better, I'll use my social connections. I don't believe that Lan Young can still run a big hospital if word spreads that he doesn't provide for old people and mistreats them. Zhao Shumi was furious. Mom, I don't think that's a good idea. If Ting Young's hospital goes bankrupt, our family will have nothing. We wouldn't mind, but your health would definitely suffer. Xu Yanshan was worried. Don't be scared. The hospital is the lifeline of the Lan family. I'm not stupid. I'm just teaching Lan Young a lesson. Zhao Shumi laid on bed, her face yellow, but her eyes were bright. Don't worry, I know what to do, Lan Ting smiled. His mother had accomplished everything she had wanted in her life, but there was nothing she couldn't accomplish. Hence, he wasn't worried that his family's income would be ruined. Xu Yanshan smiled again and continued to feed old Mrs. Lan her medicine. Oh right, the interview will be held next week. I want to find a teacher for Yaxin. It's a friend of mine from many years ago. I'm ill and can't teach her personally, but my friend is very capable. I haven't spoken to her and she will be coming to teach Yaxin tomorrow. Zhao Shumi didn't want Lan Yaxin to lose to that brat again, or she wouldn't be able to maintain her reputation. She still wanted to rely on her granddaughter to win around. Xu Yanshan's smile brightened. They couldn't afford outside teachers. A class is expensive, and there weren't many free and experienced teachers around. Thank you, Mom. Yaxin will definitely live up to your expectations. Last time, it was Anran who cheated. This time, let's see how capable she is. Zhao Shumi nodded, thinking the same thing. Due to her loss to Anran last time, Yaxin didn't dare to underestimate her again. Even during the weekend, she was studying hard, afraid that she would lose to Anran in the next exam. In the past 2 days, she had finished reading Grandma's notes. She wanted to develop a drug that could increase one's immunity so that one wouldn't catch a cold, but up till now, no one had been able to develop such a thing. If she could develop it, she would definitely be the champion. Every year, the pharmacy competition would have many strange medicines. Some were long-haired reagents, whilst others were for cooling effects. There wasn't anything new, so she had to create a miracle. But these things took a long time to test, and she would need to conduct many experiments. There was still a week before the competition, so she needed to find suitable herbs. She was browsing on the internet about herbs when a forum suddenly popped up. Happened to be a herbal forum, which had various herbal introductions. The most brewed post was written by a doctor named Sweet Smile. Lan Yaxin clicked on it with some interest and read it with relish, feeling that she would benefit greatly. Hence, she sent the author a private message with Smile, wanting her to be her teacher and teach her how to make medicine. On the other hand, Lan Anran had returned from the hospital and was making some herbal soup at home. There was a computer beside her which had a post about herbal medicine that she had just posted. In 5 minutes, the numbers of views had exceeded 1 million, and she had added many fans, most of which were herbal fans. Ayn Rand was making the soup and reading her private messages at the same time. She didn't reply because she didn't think there was anything interesting to see. Coincidentally, Yanran returned with his laptop and backpack. "Sis, I'm back," he shouted as he sat at the kitchen table. "Why are you back? What happened to Mom?" Lan Yanran turned to look at Yanran. "Mom is fine now. I've spoken to Dad." He glanced at her computer. "What is this?" He was curious. "I was bored just now, so I wrote a post about Chinese medicine on the forum. I'll earn 1,000 yuan if my likes exceed 10,000, Yanran said calmly. Chapter 71, The Scandal. Yanran looked at the likes on the computer and exclaimed in surprise, "Sis, the likes alone broke 1 million. "Really? I didn't notice." Yanran's calm reply made Yanran admire his sister much more. "Sis, you're so cool." Yanran took a peek at her messages. "Sis, someone wants you to be their master and wants to study medicine with you. Aren't you going to respond?" Yanran smiled. "Don't care," Yanran said slowly, as she took out the herbal soup and was about ready and placed it in a thermal flask. She knew that many people would want her as their teacher, but she didn't think it was time for her to accept a disciple. She wasn't old enough, so how could she be their teacher? Wouldn't it be a joke if word got out? Yanran found it amusing. While Yanran wasn't paying attention, he secretly replied to the admirer who wanted to study with her. "Hi, I saw your invitation and thank you for liking me. I don't accept disciples easily. You can take me as your teacher if you want, but are you willing to pay 2,000 yuan? Jackson waited a long time before the message finally arrived. She was overjoyed, but at the moment she opened her private message and saw the fee, she was furious. Now that the family's income was blocked by Yanran, that brat, how could she have 2,000 yuan to pay for a master? She frowned and asked, "Sorry, can it be cheaper?" When Yanran received the message, he smiled and his long and fair fingers typed on the keyboard. "It's alright if you don't have money. Send me an ugly photo and I'll accept you as my disciple." Yanran smiled. This was interesting. "Yanran, I'm going to the hospital with some herbal soup. Be good at home." Yanran didn't know what Yanran was doing. She picked up the thermos and left after reminding him a few times. "Okay." After Yanran left, Yanran continued to look at her computer. Opposite her, Lan Jackson was a little conflicted about this method of payment. She found that Sweet Smile was too childish, but her understanding of herbs was beyond her own. She thought it would be all right to send an ugly photo of someone, so she found one and sent it over. Yanran saw the flaw in the photo at a glance and was dissatisfied. "Liar, forget it if you don't want to be my disciple." Jackson had no choice but to take one and send it over, as she didn't have any ugly photos. Yanran was shocked. Was this Lan Jackson? What a coincidence. "Will that do? Will my photo be all right?" Jackson was the school beauty and was very confident in her looks. She loved it when other people praised her for her looks. Yanran had an idea and continued. "Yes, you look good. You are my disciple, so you will receive a gift from me tomorrow." Jackson was both happy and puzzled. It was strange to receive a gift before they even met, but she didn't say anything. She would only wait for the mysterious gift. The next day, Yanran went to school as usual. No matter where she went, there would always be a pair of eyes staring at her, which made her uncomfortable. The moment she entered the classroom, it was noisy and she had no idea what was going on. Zhao Xiaolei waved at her, signaling Yanran to come over. "Yanran, hurry up!" Yanran walked to her seat unhurriedly. "Yanran, there's a post about traditional Chinese medicine. It was well written and many people liked it. The author is famous, and now everyone in class is worshipping this herb master. Sun Hai wants to become her disciple." Zhao Xiaolei opened the post to Yanran. Anna was a little surprised. Wasn't this what she wrote yesterday? She originally wanted to earn some money, but she had actually withdrawn what she needed this morning. She didn't expect it to become so popular. Oh, Ayn Rand replied casually. Then Ayn Rand, just you wait. After I acknowledge her as my teacher, you will definitely lose to me, Sun Hai shouted. Ayn Rand almost laughed out loud. She wanted to acknowledge her as her teacher, and now she wanted her teacher to leave? What kind of logic was that? Well, we'll see if she accepts you or not. Ayn Rand's lips were redder than usual as she applied some lip balm today, making her look even better. Her smile was even more charming and her big watery eyes were twinkling. In Sun Hai's opinion, she was undoubtedly mocking her. You... Sun Hai was about to say something when her phone rang. She opened it and smiled. There was a hideous photo of Lan Yaxin posted by an anonymous thread. It also mentioned to Lan Yaxin that this was her gift to her. The post was liked, forwarded, and commented on the forum. Those who didn't like Lan Yaxin ridiculed and liked the post. The entire school exploded with gossip. After all, ugly photos of the school beauty were rare, and many people used them as memes and keepsakes. Look at Lan Yaxin. She really knows how to play. This photo is beautiful. Look at your sister's beautiful photos. Sun Hai felt that such a good thing wasn't enough, as long as things had to be shared. At least in Lan Yaxin's matter, she and Ayn Rand were on the same side. Ayn Rand glanced at her photo and almost burst into laughter. Chapter 72. It's her. Lan Yaxin in the photo had her eyes rolled with a hideous expression, as if she had eaten something disgusting, and her mouth was twitching. Anyone who saw it would burst into laughter. Zhao Xiaolei heard the news and hurriedly opened the forum to join in on the fun. Oh my god, it's so funny. The comments under the post are hilarious. Let me read it out to you. Someone made a couplet for Lan Yaxin. The mortal realm had nothing to do with her eyes rolled back. The hospital needs to take care of her twitching face. Someone had even asked Lan Yaxin to visit the hospital to see if she had a stroke. Zhao Xiaolei laughed uncontrollably. The whole class is criticizing Lan Yaxin. Class 2 exploded as well. Yaxin's face turned red, and she hurriedly posted on Weibo to clear the air. This isn't me. Everyone, take a good look and don't create rumors. But this explanation was too weak. Yaxin, who did this? How bold. It wasn't easy for photos to be photoshopped like this. Now, she didn't even dare to stand with Lan Yaxin as it was too embarrassing. Was it you? You're the only one who has my photos. Yaxin's eyes were blazing. Yaxin, what are you thinking? How could we have gotten ugly photos of you? Guqi was dissatisfied with Yaxin's suspicion. The post said it was a gift for you, Yang King reminded. Lan Yaxin seemed to be sobered up and remembered. It must have been that sweet smile. Damn it, she was tricked. The whole class looked at Lan Yaxin strangely, which made her uncomfortable, so she ran out to hide. Her two little followers trailed closely behind. Yaxin, I think there's something fishy about this. The person who did this might be jealous of you. Since she posted something like this in the school forums, it must be that she is in their school. Guqi guessed. Who is she? Our Yaxin is a good-tempered, outstanding person. So who could it be? Yang King was a little confused. There were definitely many people who were jealous of Lan Yaxin, which would be like searching a needle in a haystack. Yaxin was wondering if Sweet Smile was from the school. Suddenly, a name popped into her head. She was the only one who could do this. Lan Ayn Rand. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She turned to leave for the other class angrily. Lan Rand, come out, she shouted at the entrance of Class 1. Ayn Rand heard the noise and walked out, followed by a group of people. Well, aren't you being noisy? Is there something the matter? Lan Ayn Rand smiled, which made Yan Yaxin even angrier. She suppressed the anger in her heart and pretended to be pitiful. Sis, why are you treating me like this? I just wanted to study hard. So why are you humiliating me? Ayn Rand was confused. What are you talking about? When did I humiliate you? Are you Sweet Smile? Weren't you the one who posted these ugly photos? She questioned confidently. Anrin was a little surprised. She didn't expect Lan Yaxen to be able to guess that she was Sweet Smile. It wasn't easy. Before she could speak, Sun Hai denied it. That's impossible. How could she be Sweet Smile? Aren't you thinking too much, Lan Yaxen? She couldn't accept Anrin as her master. Wouldn't that be a joke? That's impossible. Sis, are you Sweet Smile or not? I just want to study hard. It's alright if you don't want to teach me, but why are you humiliating me? Yaxen continued. I didn't insult you. I have no idea what you're talking about, Anran retorted, and she wanted to leave. She didn't have time to quarrel with Yaxen here. Stop, sis, explain yourself. Yaxen grabbed Lan Anran's hand. Let her go. A cold voice came from behind the crowd. Everyone looked back and opened the path. Yanran walked out handsomely. Wow, this is so interesting, a surrounding student exclaimed. Yanran, what's the matter with you? Go away. Yaxen was a little angry. I posted your ugly photos. Do whatever you want from me, but let go of my sister. Yanran looked at Yaxen confidently. Your Sweet Smile? Sun Hai asked curiously. I'm not. My sister is. I photoshopped the ugly photos. Look at me if you want to cause trouble. Don't make things difficult for my sister, Yanran said righteously. Yanran, you're too much. I'm going to tell Grandma. Yaxen turned to leave angrily. The remaining people looked at the pair of siblings in surprise. They didn't expect Anran to be the one who posted the viral post. Anran, is that expert really you? Zhao Shale was a little surprised. Anran didn't speak. She just smiled and left Lan Yanran. Sis, I'm sorry for troubling you. Yanran smiled. It's alright. I've endured Lan Yaxen for a long time. Anran caressed her brother's head and smiled. You're going to admit your mistake to Mom and Dad. I'm guessing Grandma will come looking for trouble in the next 2 days. Again? Sis, are you going to fight again? Although his sister was awesome when she handed it to their family, the aftermath was often complicated. Anran shook her head and smiled. No. The last time she took action, her mother's old ailment relapsed. This time, she wouldn't be so impulsive. Chapter 73. The Tattletale. After school, Lan Yaxen went to the Lan family villa and started sobbing the moment she entered. Sweetheart, what's wrong? Who bullied you? Tell Grandma. The person in Zhao Shumi's arms was covered in tears and her heart ached. Grandma, you have to give me justice. Anran and her brother are too much. They bullied me. Lan Yaxen laid in Zhao Shumi's arms and whimpered. What? They dared to bully you? Zhao Shumi widened her eyes. Grandma, Lan Yanran posted my ugly photo on the school's forum and made the entire school mock me. Now I'm a joke. Anran has also given me the nickname of a poker-faced man. Everyone is mocking and isolating me. I'm too ashamed to go to school. Grandma, you have to uphold justice for me. Really? I didn't expect so many things to happen to us since she came back. What a jinx. My good granddaughter don't cry. I will help you. I think my health is getting better and I'll seek revenge from that jinx. Just you wait. Grandma will get justice for you. That rascal has only been around a few days and has already turned the sky upside down with his sister backing him. I won't tolerate this. Zhao Shumi cursed angrily. But Grandma, Lan Anran dared to hit you. If you go, she might even hit you again. What should we do? Yaxen didn't think her grandma's reaction was explosive enough and needed to add some extra fuel, so she continued to add fuel to the fire. She wouldn't dare. Let's go now. I'm her biological grandmother and her father's mother. Will she beat me to death? Lan Tingyi and Shu Yanshan walked in as well. Due to the lack of funds at home, Lan Tingyi was coming over more frequently. Hey, my dear daughter, why are you crying? Shu Yanshan hugged her tenderly. That rascal Lan Yanran bullied her. Zhao Shumi was heartbroken. What? That brat dares to bully my daughter? He must be tired of living. I'll get even with him. Lan Tingyi was upset to see his daughter like this. Stop! Why are you looking for him? Zhao Xunmi called out loudly. Are you going to let that rascal bully my daughter? Mom, Yaxin is your granddaughter. Are you going to care if others bully her? Lan Tingyi couldn't take it anymore. Lan Yanran did something wrong. Why are we going to him? Give Ting Young's house a call and have them all come over to apologize to Yaxin. Zhao Xunmi spoke confidently. She didn't have a reason to find Lan Ting Young, that unfiled son. This would be a good excuse. It wouldn't just dampen his spirits, it would also require compensation for psychological damage. Shu Yanshin understood all Mrs. Lan's intentions and signaled for Lan Tingyi to hurry to the phone. Lan Tingyi nodded and called Lan Ting Young. Lan Ting Young, you heartless thing. Do you think things will get better with your daughter? She's just a jinx, and your useless son dares to bully my daughter. Mom said to come over and apologize to her immediately. Lan Ting Young looked at his son, who had his head lowered, but didn't say anything. Last time, An Ren beat his mother, and he said those words to her. Back then, he was indeed angry. Now that he thought about it, he regretted it. After all, she was still his mother, and he nodded in agreement. An Ren was prepared as well. She didn't know what tricks that this old thing was up to, but she definitely wouldn't agree to it. Li Yi was worried when she heard the news. Ting Young, I'm almost recovered. I'll go with you, or else Mom will pick on me again. Lan Ting Young thought about it and nodded. He wanted to handle the discharge procedures for her. The family didn't go home after being discharged and went directly to the Lan family's villa. Zhao Xunmi had been waiting in the house for too long and cursed impatiently. That unfiled thing, I should have strangled him to death back then, so he wouldn't have angered me now. Mom, calm down. Today isn't just about Yaxin. This is also about our family's livelihood. I heard that recently Ting Young had been extremely busy in the hospital because of a batch of medical equipment. The hospital is in urgent need of medical equipment and funds are tight. He is distressed about money. If we can help, the hospital will be in your hands and you can do whatever you want. Shu Yanshin smiled. Know yourself and know your enemy. You will always win. She had long heard about the hospital and was waiting to use it to deal with Lan Ting Young. The heavens are on my side. Zhao Xunmi was overjoyed. Just then, Lan Ting Young brought his family in with a bitter expression. Mom, we're here. You still dare to come over? You must have been bewitched by a demon. If I hadn't mentioned it, you would have forgotten. Zhao Xunmi spoke in a cryptic tone, and gaze drifting to An Ren. No, Mom, I spoke a little harshly in a fit of anger last time. Don't take it to heart. Lan Ting Young spoke gently. Lan Ting Young, I am your biological mother after all. I'll accept whatever you do to me. But you can't bully my granddaughter in such a manner. Yaxin is such a good child, but why must you make her the laughingstock of the entire school? Would you be proud if she was despised? Zhao Xunmi suppressed her anger and asked directly. Chapter 74. Clear the Boundary. Lan Yanran was right. The tattletale had spoken. Mom, Yanran was wrong. Yanran, hurry up and apologize to Yaxin. Lan Ting Young turned his head. Yanran was very obedient and didn't argue this time. He lowered his head and spoke. Sis, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have posted your ugly photos online. I was wrong. Yaxin wasn't used to Yanran's obedient apology. Then take down the school's forum and delete it, Lan Yaxin said smugly. Yanran immediately took out his phone and deleted the photo. Since he had seen and enjoyed it a lot, it didn't matter if they were deleted or not. Is that enough? He spoke casually. Zhao Xunmi noticed that Lan Yanran was becoming bolder and bolder. She was displeased just by looking at him. Insolent! Are you here to apologize? Who gave you the courage to act so arrogantly in front of me? Kneel! Zhao Xunmi couldn't contain her anger and released it immediately. This grandson of hers was always up to no good. She would definitely teach him a lesson today. Grandma, there's no need to get even after the apology is given, right? An Ren stood up. Presumptuous. Lan Ren, who do you think you are? You're just a jinx, and you dare to say such things in front of me? Yan Ren did something wrong. Can't I teach him a lesson? Zhao Xunmi had always stood on the side that the words of the elders were irrefutable. Grandma, tell us what you want. There's no need to use Yan Ran as an excuse. Ayn Rand could tell that Zhao Shumi's motive wasn't related to Lan Yaxin, but was probably a greedy one. Lan Ayn Rand, how dare you interrupt your grandma like this? You have no manners. Lan Ting was furious when he saw Lan Ayn Rand. Uncle, you have your rules. Are you here to settle the scores or to calculate the money? The eldest son is so shameless. Lan Ayn Rand smiled. You, Ayn Rand, don't say anything. Mom, he knows his mistake and has deleted the photos. Please forgive him. Lan Ting spoke. I can forgive him. Next, let's talk about your brother. You must arrange a position for him. His family of 3 will depend on you, Zhao Shumi said. Mom, I said it before. There isn't any position suitable for him in the hospital now. He hasn't touched a scalpel in so many years. If someone dies, the hospital will be gone and he won't be able to become a cleaner, even with a 10% discount. Lan Ting evaded her request. Bastard, you want your brother to be a cleaner? Wouldn't that be an embarrassment to the Lan family? There will always be people dying in the hospital every day. What's so rare about that? Zhao Shumi slammed the table and glared. Mom, you're a doctor too. How could you say such a thing? Lan Ting was a little surprised. Zhao Shumi immediately corrected herself. If you don't agree to let your brother go to the hospital, I'll propose the second option. I heard that the hospital is in short supply and you don't have the funds to manage it, right? Zhao Shumi asked. Lan Ting became alert and vigilant. This is how Lan Ting went to jail last time. Has she still not given up? Mom, how did you know? Don't ask me how I know. Yanshan has connections, and Yanshan and Ting can help you buy the equipment. As long as you agree to give the company shares to Tingyi's family and me, the hospital can be saved, Zhao Shumi said. Yeah, Tingyi and I have connections. As long as you agree, we can purchase a large batch of high-quality medical equipment at the lowest price. Think about it. Xu Yanshan smiled. You're so funny. Who doesn't know how Uncle went to jail? Back then, everyone knew about it. We won't dare to use this route. Lan Ayn Rand smiled. What did you say? Our connections are open and above board. Tingyi can only buy at a discounted price because they are friends. Others don't have such a discounted price. You brat, what do you know? Xu Yanshan said furiously. More like a cellmate than a friend. Yan Ran smiled. Now he had his sister backing him. He wasn't afraid of anything. This is outrageous. You little hussy, why are you interrupting an adult? You have no manners. Zhao Shumi cursed. Mom, it's not that we disagree, but we really don't dare to use it. Although I've been hospitalized recently, I heard a lot from Ting Yang. We can still get something good while we wait a while. Li Yiro declined politely. Yanren was right. That person might really be his cellmate. She didn't dare to take her life lightly. She didn't dare to touch anything Lan Tingyi introduced. Yiro, what do you mean? Are you saying that my connections are unknown, or do you not believe me? Lan Tingyi spoke. Tingyi, it's not that I don't believe you. It's just a matter of the shares isn't easy to handle, and the hospital is very strict on these pieces of equipment. The Euro declined politely. Ting Yang, will you listen to your wife from me? Zhao Shumi raised a difficult question. Do you want a wife or a mother? Lan Ting Yang was a filial son. He wouldn't give up his mother, but he wouldn't give up his wife either. He frowned and didn't speak for a long time. Mom, you're making things difficult for me. How am I going to choose? Lan Tingyang frowned. Li Yiro glared at Lan Tingyang. This hospital was her life. If Lan Tingyang agreed, she would divorce him. I told you to give half of the hospital to your brother. Why is it so difficult? Tingyang, do you not know his conditions? Can't you help him? Zhao Shumi only wanted Lan Tingyang's hospital and hadn't thought about his feelings at all. Chapter 75, She Will Ruin Him. Mom, why are you so biased? You gave birth to me and you always had been biased towards Tingyi. Didn't I say anything? You or I spent so much effort to get this hospital to how it is now. You and Tingyi's family had been enjoying life at home and hadn't suffered at all. Now you want the hospital? Why? Lan Tingyang finally vented his dissatisfaction. Because I'm your mom and your brother's health hasn't been good since he was a child. It wasn't easy for him to grow up and something like this had happened. How dare you say that I'm biased? If I wasn't, would you be here as you are today? Zhao Shumi was furious. Mom, you're right. I couldn't have ended up like this even if you weren't biased. What right does he have to enjoy my fruits? What right does he have to reap the fruits of my labor? When I started to establish the hospital, both of you didn't support me and said that it was a waste of money. Now that the hospital is making money, the two of them are running back. Is there such a good thing? Lan Tingyang continued, ignoring the livid expression on old Mrs. Land's face. Lan Tingyang, you unfile thing. Even though I didn't agree back then, you still gave... Even though I didn't agree back then, I still gave you 5,000 yuan. Just the 5,000 yuan alone will give me a share in the hospital. Zhao Shumi was panting heavily as she spoke. Mom, how many 5,000 yuan packets had I given you over the years? Even the shares aren't that much. It shouldn't have been enough long ago, right? Lan Tingyang's voice was bad, but he was mostly disappointed. He didn't expect his mother not to care at him at all. He seemed to have an ATM, one that would leave after receiving money. What are you saying? Are you trying to distance yourself from me? Zhao Shumi opened her eyes wide as she asked. Mom, no matter what, I don't agree with Ting managing, investing, or working in the hospital, Lan Tingyang said firmly. Good. If you don't agree, then get out. Get out. If you want to draw the line, fine. Get out now. Zhao Shumi was furious again. Her face flushed red. Lan Tingyang was also furious. He pulled his wife and children out of the Lan family's villa. He never expected his mother to be so biased. After Lan Tingyang's family left, old Mrs. Lan was so angry that she started to throw things. She didn't expect him to be so stubborn that he wouldn't listen to her anymore. Mom, what will happen after we fall out with Tingyang? Xu Yanshan's face was grim, blaming old Mrs. Lan in her heart for causing them to have no income. Grandma, don't be angry. Second uncle is just angry. Perhaps he will get better after he thinks things through. Yaxin soothed the anger in Zhao Shumi's chest. I don't have such an unfiled son. How dare he treat me like this? He's becoming more and more of an ingrate as he grows up. Mom, how did Tingyang become like this? After all, I was once the head of the hospital. Yes, I was obsessed back then, but now I've changed. Why is he still clinging on to that? What should I do? Lan Tingyang scratched his head. As a man of his 40s, it was extremely difficult for him to find a job now. You still have the cheek to say that? If you haven't been so worrisome, would you be here today? Every single one of you has made me worry. At my age, all of you are angering me. After Zhao Shumi was done cursing, she was so angry that she smashed the last teacup in her hand, throwing it far away and breaking it into pieces. That unfiled thing. Since he is unfiled, why should I treat him kindly? She calmed down and spoke. Mom, what do you want? Xu Yanshan carefully probed Zhao Shumi's thoughts. What? I'm going to ruin his reputation. Zhao Shumi spoke firmly, while Lan Yaxin pouted. She really couldn't provoke Grandma. It seems like Uncle Second Family was going to suffer. Lan Tingyang walked out, and after boarding the car, he turned the steering wheel abruptly to vent his anger. Mom is being too biased. You're her biological son, after all, and now she's treating you like an outsider. She's simply a bloodthirsty demon. Li Yiru wasn't afraid of making Lan Tingyang angry. She spoke in front of him. Dad, it's my fault. Yan Ran lowered his head, his face full of guilt. Lan Tingyang caressed his son's head and shook his head and smiled bitterly. It's alright. Dad is just angry. Let's go home. Dad, I'm going to say something I shouldn't. I think we should be wary of Grandma now. You should know her personality. Once you provoke her, she will do anything. Today she is determined to get Uncle's shares in the hospital. I'm afraid that they won't give up easily. We should be careful. I'm not trying to sow discord between you and Grandma, but Grandma's actions today were too horrifying. Uncle and his family don't seem to be good people. Mom, Dad, we should be careful. Ayn Rand spoke softly. Lan Tingyang thought about what his daughter said made sense. He knew his mother, and she would definitely do whatever she said. His brother's request for the hospital probably hadn't ended yet, so he should make his decision. Alright, I understand. Let's go home. Lan Tingyang spoke weakly.